another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something I've just noticed over the last couple of weeks, month or so, as I've spent a lot of time in a small group setting, a couple of different environments, but all small group settings. And I realized something about the importance of having a small support group. So today's episode is entitled The Courage to Be Seen: How Small Groups Transform Leadership. So recently, I went out to California and did a retreat for a small group of interior designers. It was a really great experience because I had a relationship with several of these folks for a few years now, and I hadn't really gotten to spend time with them in person. Everything has always been virtual, so that part was amazing. But as far as all of the people in the room, uh, they didn't really know much about one another. Some knew one another better than others because they worked together in the same office. Um, but it was a lot of people that had the opportunity to spend time getting to know at least a few new people. And we had originally talked about having a large number of attendees. That was something we thought we wanted to do. But by the end of the retreat, we realized that by keeping it small, it was so much more powerful. Fast forward to today, I was sitting in a small group setting on a call with people who didn't know one another. And it was actually a trial run for a forum, a small group that they wanted to do a test run for a new facilitator and kind of get her feet wet before she facilitates a group that would span a couple of years together. And in this setting, I also noticed immediately how quickly people were willing to open up. And I was considering the size of the group. I feel like the smaller the group, the more open and honest people feel like they can be. It feels more safe and secure. So, anyway, a topic came up about vulnerability, and I kind of connected the dots in my head a little bit later. So, I want to focus on vulnerability and being able to have courage to share your whole self with people. Because typically, as leaders, we go out there and we have to be our best, give our best at all times, and slap a smile on our face even when times are difficult. And we're not really sure necessarily how much of what's going on behind the scenes we should share, that we should be comfortable sharing, and when it's gone too far. But in these settings, when you are able to sit down and collaborate with a small group of people who you are not leading, they are peers, and you can share what's going on in life as a whole, spending time focusing on the things that are going well, but also the things that are coming up that are challenging. Giving people the opportunity to ask the difficult questions about what's going on in your life, maybe uncovering some blind spots. All of that stuff can be so powerful. So, when we reached the end of that session and we were talking about our takeaways, that takeaway is actually what led to this episode. So, as I mentioned, as leaders, it can be really lonely if you feel like you don't have anyone to share the behind the scenes struggles with. You're surrounded by people and you have a good relationship with those people, but it doesn't mean that they truly know you and truly know what you're experiencing outside of that relationship. They might be getting a more polished version of you. Another thing that I noticed through this is that the safety piece, the small group setting, as the size of the group decreases, I feel like the transparency increases. As soon as you start a conversation and uncover kind of the importance of confidentiality. It tells people that what you're about to share is maybe something that people don't know. You don't want a lot of people to know, and that you're opening up more than you typically would. And so, in both settings, we had the conversations about confidentiality, and everyone kind of had to agree to what we talk about stays here. And I feel like as soon as that happens, there's this freedom that exists that didn't exist before. I know, like, just being here locally, city of Winchester, though big city to me, is also a small town. And I feel like when you talk to someone, people know people, and you have to be able to trust that when you're opening up, you are doing so in confidence, or the entire city of Winchester will know your business. And so, you being able to sit down with a small group and know that when you state things are confidential, that they will stay confidential, is really important. Then we were talking about vulnerability. People in the room, uh, in California, for example, some were more introverted than others. Some are used to openly sharing things that others aren't. And with the varying levels, it really didn't matter where people were starting. After one person spoke and they opened up and shared something that maybe was hard for them to talk about, or a really difficult situation that they've gone through, um, and it made it relatable to others. It seemed that even those that had more difficulty sharing were able to feel more comfortable in doing it after, like, someone kind of breaks the ice. And it's like, oh, well, if they were willing to share that, you know, raw moment with this group, then it's only fair for me to be able to, you know, share equally, and make them feel that they are trusted enough, with stuff from my life as well. So I feel like when you allow yourself to be more vulnerable, that it does pay off, because then you are letting people into that other side of you to be able to ask you the questions that you might not be asking yourself because you're just not slowing down to do it. They can help you explore your limiting beliefs that you have for yourself, because sometimes our self talk can be holding us back. And someone can help us kind of work through that and question some of those beliefs we hold about ourselves. Sometimes it's the fears, the underlying fears that can be uncovered, and we can figure out what's been holding us back for so long. Maybe there are patterns in your behavior, cycles that you're going through, and by opening up, people can pick up on those and help you to see those, and really discover how to break those cycles, if necessary. So, being in a vulnerable state and being open to that feedback and that line of questioning allows you to see yourself more clearly. See yourself the way others might already be seeing you, because sometimes there is a difference between how you see yourself and others are seeing you as well. And I just feel like it builds so much trust so quickly. By the end of 2 hours, in a group of 6 people, only knew one of those people in advance before today's call. In 2 hours, I felt like I could trust these people, though I knew nothing about them before. Because I knew different aspects of their life, and there was something that was relatable for every single one of them, despite having completely different backgrounds and growing up in different places and such different experiences. There was something that every single person in that group said that I could relate to. And it's like the moment I could relate to them, I felt like I could trust them. Um, so I was amazed by the takeaways in such a short period of time, and hearing everybody else's takeaways as well. This is something that I've also seen the beauty of. I know I've mentioned a few times my entrepreneurially group that I'm in. and having once a month coaching sessions in a small group setting in a very structured conversation where we can bring a problem to the group and people can ask us questions and then share experiences that they've had that might relate to that in some way without providing advice. I've seen the power of that as well. So I feel like there are a couple of themes here. There's the theme of allowing yourself to be vulnerable with a small, trusted group of people. Um, Finding those people in your life, even if it's starting with one or two, that you don't have to have a polished story for, that you don't have to always be at your best and you can tell them on the days when you're not. Really thinking about who those people are for you and exploring the possibility of, gathering with some sort of frequency to be able to have some sort of structured conversation where you can really spotlight one another and ask questions about life, not just work, but personal life as well. Once you do that for a while, you really have built in accountability because when you share takeaways and commitments, you have people that care and understand and are going to, come back to you and check in on you and ensure that you're following through on those things. Whereas if you don't have that small group and people aren't even aware of your goals and what you're working through, then you don't have that. That's a missing piece, is that accountability part. They're there to encourage you to grow, to push you outside of your comfort zone, to help you celebrate your wins instead of just focusing on the things that aren't going well and always problem solving, but also stopping and celebrating what you can. So I feel like it pays off to have that ongoing group. I find that I have a small group that I text with daily. We're not always perfect with how we do with reporting to one another what we've accomplished, but even though it's not perfect, it's more support and accountability than I would have without those, three people in my life. So once I discovered them and that I could trust them, and we open up at a certain level, it has become a daily conversation. And I know if I'm off the radar for usually if it's 24 hours that they haven't heard from me, there's going to be a text, and same for them. If someone's missing for that period of time, there's a quick check in. Is everything okay? So I feel like finding even that to start with, if it can be an informal texting group, um, if you feel like you're ready for something more and you want to look for a more formalized group, there are plenty of groups that already exist. And when I say that, I mean the group might not be formed, but the organization exists and has the structure that you might need. Like entrepreneurially, for example, we are paired up in a small group. And to be completely honest, the thing that I don't love about that group and that setup is that every 6 months the group changes. Now I can see the value in that because you're getting different perspectives, you're hearing different stories, building new relationships. But for people that might take a little longer to open up or feel like they're just getting to know everyone, you get to that point and then you have a new group. And so I do find that very difficult. I would prefer to be with a group long term, like the group that I met with today. I'm pretty sure theirs span several years, where you're grouped together for several years of sessions, of meetings, very structured. So there's a whole range of opportunities. So things like entrepreneurially mastermind groups, forming your own group, creating your own structure. But I encourage you to start somewhere if you don't have that already in place. Find that circle if you aren't sure exactly who that might be. Maybe sitting down and making a list of people you are closest to and that you already have some sort of level of trust with, um, and feel it out. Maybe have a one-on-one, have lunch, coffee together, and talk with them about your needs and what you're exploring and what you're looking for in this peer group or an accountability partnership. You would probably want to filter who makes the cut for your small group. Is it someone who you see that their actions and their values align? Someone you feel like you can trust with your honesty and the confidentiality piece? Are they someone who's going to challenge you, or are they more of a cheerleader and supporter, but they're not going to push you? I think that's an important piece too. I think the celebration and the support plays an important role in it, but we want to be surrounded by people who are encouraging us to, do better, improve, grow on a regular basis. So just considering, will they challenge you without shaming you in the process? So I think you should start simple. It's something you could do right away. I know as I'm recording this, we're coming up on the holidays and hopefully people have some time off and some time for reflection set aside. Um, don't overthink it. Write down a list of people close to you. Consider friends, colleagues. Um, I think it's great to have someone outside of your workplace where it's a peer. It might even be a peer in your same industry, but not working at your organization, because it can change the way that you work together and change that relationship. And you never want to question how having those conversations might impact you and your relationship in the workplace. Um, and just consider how you might approach that conversation, maybe with them each one on one first to see if they're open to the idea. And then being able to schedule something with frequency, and come back together and reflect. So I know that was kind of a lot, and I'm all over the place with this one today. But what I really want to share is the importance of the courage to be vulnerable. Sharing things that are normally outside your comfort zone with a small group of people can be so very beneficial to your growth, to allow yourself to be just you and be real and authentic, and know you're not being judged for it. So I want to take a moment to do our leadership unscripted for this week. I actually, from the list of submissions, I pulled one that I thought goes along with this topic best. And it says, I value transparency, but sometimes I wonder if I'm sharing too much with my team, especially when I'm stressed or unsure. How do I know where the line is between being honest and oversharing? And I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in previous episodes, that this is something I've always struggled with, like knowing where that line is. And so I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And I had mentioned in my small group this morning that the podcast has kind of forced me to be a little bit more vulnerable and share, but then I question if I'm oversharing sometimes. And so I started to think about how I could filter and determine, is this too much or is this appropriate to share? And I think if you, by sharing, you're adding weight to their shoulders, then maybe it's not something that should be shared. So if it's something that you share and then they're going to have to carry the weight of that, they're going to have to carry that emotion, then maybe it's something that's too much, maybe too much transparency. Um, if you're sharing something that will empower them, you're sharing it because your experience and something going on in your life connects to what they've experienced, and you feel like that's of value and it's going to help them to feel seen or heard or empower them. That would be one thing. But if you're showing up to work and you're sharing the weight of personal stuff going on in your life. And it's if in any way it feels like you're offloading it onto them, like if they might be carrying any weight of that after the conversation, maybe that's too much. I'm not saying this is the right answer. I'm just saying this is something that I've been thinking through. Um, I think it's important to kind of process privately first and consider that before having the conversation, and sharing something that you might regret having opened up about. Um, the other thing that I was thinking about this is sometimes the sharing has to do with things going on in the organization itself. So, of course, you're not going to want to share something going on with another colleague or, one of their peers. But sharing a difficult situation, a challenge that's come up, a question you're unsure about, I think that that's okay if it's paired with clarity in what steps are going to be taken, like not saying you're completely lost and overwhelmed and you don't know how you're going to deal with this, showing up to be able to say, this has been difficult. However, I have a plan and I know what I'm going to do to help us move forward. So I think it's okay to share at some capacity when it's work related. But when you have already kind of come up with a solution and a path forward, so it's not just coming with a problem and then they bear the weight of the problem, but instead having some ideas of a solution and a way forward. So those are the things that kind of stand out to me and I think go along with this episode too. So you're sharing to, inform them, not to really unload on them, is my thought on that. And then I am going to, for the leadership in the wild this week, I'm not going to name a particular person. I'm just going to say, if the folks listening to this are in the group, they know it. If you have been in a small group with me recently, I'm just going to give you a shout out for your vulnerability, for opening up in a group of people that you don't know well, talking about things going on in your personal life, your professional life, things that you feel like are holding you back, fears you have. I think that vulnerability is definitely an important leadership skill and something that we can all continue to develop. But the folks that have been participating in my small groups lately have done an amazing job of this. And I think they saw the payoff from that. So I think that directly connects with today's episode. So the branching out challenge for this week is for you to consider who those people are. Do you have a few people around you that you could be meeting with regularly to help process what's going on in your life and allow them to spotlight you and ask the difficult questions? If you don't already have that group, I challenge you to identify the people and take the steps to see if maybe you want to have a more formalized gathering with some sort of regularity, because I think it's powerful. It's like I feel everybody should have a coach. You need someone to help you with those blind spots, and we need to be able to be real and authentic with those around us. So I hope that was helpful. I know it's a short but sweet episode, really just something I've been processing and wanted to share with you. As always, these episodes drop on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to subscribe so you get those notifications. If you have a branching out, I almost said a branching out challenge. If you have a challenge you would like to submit for our Leadership Unscripted, feel free to shoot us an email at info@branchingoutpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you, as well as if you have any episode ideas, something that you've been thinking about that you'd like to hear more of, or a recommended guest. So that's it for this week. Until next time, keep branching out.